This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody, to the Brave Healing Podcast, where we're changing the world one brave word at a time. I'm Laura DeFranco, and I am excited to be having a conversation with author and artist Barbara Bustard today. But before I introduce her to you, you guys, I just want to give a little shout out to a friend of mine, a potter and very talented healer goddess, who created my Be Brave mugs for me. I have about 4 of these, got to have this set. So Lisa Schumacher, thank you so much for the Be Brave mugs. I love my mugs. I love sipping my morning coffee out of them. And let me tell you guys about our guest today. Barbara Bustard is a teaching artist, best-selling author, and founder of Art for Body, Mind, and Soul. She has over 25 years experience in helping individuals explore their creative potential and experience the health benefits that art provides through her workshops, retreats, group and individual meditative art sessions. So welcome, Barbara. How are you doing today?
Hi, Laura. Good. How are you, Laura?
I'm happy to have you, and I'm really happy that we're having this conversation about art, but how art is really a healing tool. Tell us about how you got started as an artist.
Well, truthfully, I was an artist from a child. I would draw like the pictures in the back of magazines that would give you, if you drew it well enough, you would get art lessons, and I would submit them, and and I submitted them, and they came to the house. So of course, parents didn't do it, but they did come to get me. And then, I had like a scrap of wood that I used a hammer and a screwdriver, and I chiseled out a horse's head in it, and I wrote poetry. I had a whole little composition book where I just wrote a bunch of poems. I've always loved art, and I've always loved color. I didn't really come into my own until probably my 40s, because I had to follow the path laid out by my mother and the direction she wanted me to go. And I didn't really do that, but I still kept to the norm. I didn't, I dressed conservatively and properly and all that stuff. But, eventually it's got to come out. And it did. So once I let it loose, there was no turning back.
Isn't that true? Art for me has been definitely a healing process. That's why I love this conversation, and a meditative process. But I had to get over a serious obstacle, and that was thinking that I wasn't an artist. And so I want to know, I know you meet a lot of people like that. And it was a gift the day that I realized that everyone is an artist. Everyone is a creative. Right. So talk to me a little bit about that and what you say to people who say that to you.
Okay. Well, first, people think of being an artist, they think of Michelangelo and Da Vinci and all that. And that isn't, yes, they're artists, but that isn't the normal artist. Everybody has creativity in them. You just have to unleash it. And you have to just go with it. Mainly the art that I like to promote, to get the healing and the benefits. It doesn't matter the result of what you do. It's the process. When you start to create, your brain kicks in and starts connecting all these other areas of your brain, and you're using both hemispheres of your brain. And once you tap into your creativity, you get started doing it, it will unleash your inner artist. And each time you go to it, you'll be more and more free. And like I said, you don't worry about the result, especially in the meditative type art. It's inner art. It comes from your heart. You aren't, making this still life that's going to hang in a museum or a portrait or whatever. You can make a portrait, but it isn't like a photographic picture of you. It's a portrait of who you are. Mm. And so you use words and you use colors and images, but it's a very freeing way to do art. There are no rules. It doesn't have to come out a certain way. However it comes out is the right way.
I love that. You said the more and more you go to it, the freer you feel. And I think that's really encouraging too. Just, the piece of this today that I know that you want to talk about too is art and a spiritual connection. And I love that topic too, because that is the way that art becomes a healing journey. But for me, it's the same as my craft of writing. It's like any kind of creativity, right? It's about the connection.
Right, that is an art form. Writing is one of the art forms, yes.
Exactly. And it's about the connection that you go back to repeatedly. And but I love how you said it. It just helps you feel freer and freer. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, so especially once you get into art and you start doing something, you get into flow. And that's where you lose your concept of time is altered, and you're totally present in what you're doing, but you're not. Does that, if that makes sense? You go with what's coming internally or spiritually, whatever. You just release your brain from all the worries, some thoughts, and all the little nagging things. That goes away, and then you kind of go into like a different dimension, even though you're totally present in what you are doing. You're like oblivious to the rest of the hurriedness and the anxiety and the stresses of your everyday life.
Definitely.
And in that space, you can actually come to know yourself better, which is your higher authentic self, because you're not focused on this is what I should be doing, this is what I have to do, this is how it should be. And you begin to learn to listen to yourself, which is your higher self or spirit or whatever. You get insight into who you are, you get insight into issues you're dealing with, you get to spark your imagination and come up with other ways of doing things. So you find like answers to problems without even, when you sit down and say, oh my gosh, I got to figure this out. What am I going to do? But if you let yourself go and you're using color and you're just going with it, it's going to come to you and come through you.
You're trying to describe something that is a feeling and a connection, right? It's interesting to listen to you describe that. I totally get it. And I want our listeners to see the possibility in this connection that you're talking about. And even about like, how do you talk about it in terms of just play with it? Just experiment. I love what you said earlier about it doesn't have to come out in any particular way. It's more about the process of it.
It is. For healing, it's in the process. It isn't the end result. Now, the end result can also, boost your self-esteem. And you know how you take a child's picture and hang it on the refrigerator?
Yes.
And that's like, oh my God, it'll do the same thing for you. You know,
Right.
you've created this and you look at it and you interpret it. And just, you know, to start off, just play with color. Get watercolors, wet the paper, put color on and watch what it does. Because when the paper's wet, that's called wet on wet, if you want to get technical. But because the paper's wet and then you add the watercolor, it's going to flow and run. And then you add some more color, just splash it on there and just let it roll around. And you'll have this beautiful artwork. But you'll also be mesmerized while you're watching it.
I
So that's
love
an easy way to get started. Or spin art. Buy yourself a spin art machine for $5. Amazing. It's so much fun. I use my potter's wheel for spin art. I put big canvases on it.
Oh,
But
that's a
yeah,
great
it's just,
idea.
I mean, just color in itself is healing and therapy because you react to colors. You know, it can bring you joy, it can make you mad, it can express love, it can bring up emotions of something that happened, and a certain color could have been worn by a person or it could have been around you.
Mm.
So just playing with color, you can learn a lot.
Well, now you're starting to talk about a connection into, and again, you're teaching us a lot about the brain today. Thank you. The brain and art. There's so many different ways you've talked about it already, but you're starting to make a connection between even possibly a past trauma, the colors that were related in that
Mm-hmm.
moment, and using art as a tool.
Yes, art is very beneficial, and there's tons of research how it's what it does is allows you to express things you can't put into words, like, and especially for PTSD or like even like a medical diagnosis like cancer, um, just being able to like somehow put it out there, whether it's in color, whether it's in some kind of image, or if it's anger, even if you just take a big black marker or whatever color to you is anger. A lot of people associate red, but I associate that differently. And just, you know, go like this, and you'll be surprised how much it will release.
Well, you said something important just now. Certain people associate a color with certain things and others don't. And so there's
Mm-hmm.
not a right or wrong here. It's just expression.
Right. I mean, there are, you know, people think like there is suppose an emotional color wheel that associates emotions with certain colors, that is like, uh, it seems to be a general association, but everybody is individual. And like I said, you know, red can be love or it can be anger,
Mm.
you know, or it could be a different color that you associate because of um, a very emotional experience that you had, whether it was joyful or whether it wasn't.
Right.
You would, that color could then be like why you say, oh, I hate the color pink. Well, why do you hate the color pink? You know, it could be something that happened when you were little. It could have been a little girl bullied you in a pink dress, and you're associating pink with I hate pink, you know. I
Yes.
mean,
And
so it
also,
is all different. So I you know, one of the exercises I do is where you create your own color wheel. You do a meditation
uh,
and you visualize each color. We go through, you know, like one at a time, just see that color and what does it bring up for you, and then come back and like paint your own color wheel and write what this means. And so that's where it's art. You have this beautiful piece of art, it's got color and it has words and it has your feelings, but you didn't have to like follow the elements of art and the elements of design and, you know, all that to do it.
yeah, there was no right way. You talk about being able to express something that's difficult to express in words, and that's why art is a great medium for that. And wow, right now in the middle of this pandemic where many of us are really struggling to express the level of uncertainty and anxiety that we've had because of all the different things that are happening around us. So what an incredible time to use this tool.
Yes, it is. And it, you know, it also, the act of creating art releases dopamine in your
Mm,
brain. which then gives you a sense of joy and well-being, even if you're like, so you get a break, your brain gets a rest, and it gets to reboot and give you some uplifting emotions and a break from whatever stress you're dealing with, or whether it's the pandemic, whether it's an illness, whether it's whatever, depression, divorce, anything. It's just a great outlet.
So speaking of your Potter's Wheel, you are a co-author of this in the new book project, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing. And you wrote about making, and I can see one behind you there.
Yep,
you
I have both. And then my book is in the middle that's going to be coming out. That's
nice.
Not the official, that's the template of the.
Oh, that's a good way to get yourself motivated about a book. But so you wrote about making the clay meditation ball. And so talk to us about that project just for a minute. Like, why that one? Why did you choose that project?
I chose it because it was, for one thing, very significant for me. And it was a way to say, you know, you can come, if you have something that you really want to get into your being or have a reminder of, you get some revelation of something, you know, that this is a big thing for me and I want to remember that I had this experience. And for me, it was the realization I mean, I don't know how much of the story you want, you know the story, but I was adopted at 2.5, and I had never seen I hadn't even seen a picture of me before the age of 2.5. And I didn't, my adoptive mother wasn't terribly nurturing, let's say. So there wasn't this real feeling of that I was hers. And in a yoga class doing breath work, the instructor had said, you know, this is going to sound internally, it'll sound like when you're in the womb. And I was like, I was never there. How would I know what that sounds like? And then, of course, I was like, whoa, because I knew, of course, I had to have been, right? And so I was having spiritual direction because I was also in the process for ordination, the discernment process. And I was telling my spiritual director about this event, and she got really angry that I did not believe I was a child of God. And I thought, now how can that be? Everybody's a child. But I realized I hadn't taken it in. I was driving home on 97, and all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, because the words of a Psalm 139 about, I knew you before you were born. I created your limbs in the womb. And I went, oh, wow. I have to, it doesn't matter that I don't, I wasn't in Mitzi's womb, or my biological mother gave me away. I don't have any connection to them. It doesn't feel like a connection. I was created in the womb of God, and that's what matters. And so I went home, and of course, being a full-time potter at the time, I went home and I had to I said, I've got to do something for this. And I'd never seen one. It wasn't a concept I'd heard of, but it just came to me. I'm making a meditation ball, and I'm going to put that scripture on it. And so then when I would meditate, I would hold this ball, and the weight of it would kind of keep me focused, so I didn't go off on all kinds of things. But it was also a reminder. I could see it, and it would remind me of that experience. So that's a great thing about art. It gives you a way to really connect with something some insight that you get.
Yeah, connect, commemorate, allow you to have a place to connect moving forward. And I love how you're displaying them back there too. It's just really, when we honor this process and then we have reminders of those sacred moments, I think that's really important because, days are tough right now.
Yes.
So
yes.
Right. Okay, so what I want to know is do you think is the most important thing for our listeners to know in terms of their self-care and healing practice?
I think the most important thing is to get over the idea that you can't be creative, that you cannot make beautiful art, and to just go for it, because the benefits are just so many. I mean, for mental health, for physical health, for emotional health, it's just do it. Just get over yourself and give it a try. Yeah,
Yes.
just go for it. Just get out some paints or cut out pictures and words and make a collage. I mean,
Oh, I love
just
collaging.
yeah,
Easy project. Really,
right.
really fun and easy, and no, no stress, no perfectionism needed. Just need to be able to cut pictures out of a magazine, right?
Right. Or like, journal. I mean, writing is a great art form, expressive writing. Just write what you're feeling. Just get it out. And
I love that. Like I said, I had to get over myself once upon a time. I had been asking an artist friend to make me art for different projects that I was working on. So one day she sends me this email that says, "Hey, I think you should really try your own art."
there you go.
You know,
Right.
and
Right.
she was the motivation for me to try an art class. It was just a video class that I purchased. And I did the thing that you said a few minutes ago. I started wanting to put it up. And I was like
Right.
proud, like I was like that 5-year-old again, like, hey, look at me, I can do this. That was
That's
a
right.
great feeling.
My walls are floor to ceiling art. Now, I didn't make all of it, but I made a lot of it, just because I have to be surrounded by it. Surround yourself with color and
Yeah,
with things that, make you happy.
exactly. Okay, so is there anything else that you want to talk about in terms of art and that spiritual connection, or art and healing?
Um, well, I think they're both really important for people to realize that art as healing can literally boost your immune system. It can help you manage pain and even decrease pain.
Mm.
It can, for emotional and mental issues, it can, improve depression and anxiety and PTSD and all of that just from the process of doing it. And then the spiritual connection is to know yourself better, to really connect with your higher self and become the person that you have the potential to be.
Mm.
And you'll get that insight by just, you know, getting in that flow and letting things go for a while and just letting it come through you. Don't worry about the result. Just let it come through you.
Beautiful.
Whatever you want to put on the paper or on a canvas or on a page, and it's all right. Are no mistakes.
Awesome. No mistakes, you guys, or make more mistakes.
Well, you change it. If you make what you think is
Yes.
a mistake, you decide to change it, which also works on your problem solving skills.
Yes, definitely. So I've got a last question that I love to ask my guests. And so no fair saying art. Okay. So
Uh-oh.
besides, I
That's
know.
my answer.
That's your answer, I know. But besides art, or maybe, the kind that we've been talking about today, what do you love to do so much you lose track of time?
Well, one would be art related, which is ceramics, because I love working with clay, and I'm not doing that now. I don't have that studio. But the other would be photography, which is an art form too,
True, but different.
but it's a different thing. You get lost in, like I always say, I look for the extraordinary in the ordinary. So I go
Mm.
out, I can spend a whole morning just taking pictures of the squirrels in my front yard. and I zoom in and I can see all the detail and the beauty of their little faces and their eyes and their little expressions. And then I'll zoom in on flowers and see the color and the intricacy of them. And this is all normal stuff that we walk by every day and ignore. I mean, yeah, you might say, oh, look, a squirrel, or some people think they're a nuisance. But if you just look around you, there is so much extraordinary stuff in just the ordinary day-to-day. And just try and find that. I love to do that.
Oh, I love that too. Notice all the miracles.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Barbara, thank you so much for what you're doing in the world and for being here today to share it with us.
Well, thank you for having me. And
So,
thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome. I'm happy that I've been able to share some of these stories, with a bigger audience. And I know it's important. I think that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get discouraged. We're not really sure if anyone's listening or reading or paying attention. Is there any just quick bit of advice you would give to that person in the world right now trying to get their message out?
Just keep trying. Just put it out there.
Just do it, right?
The person that needs to hear it will hear it.
Yes.
It will find its way to whoever needs it.
Yeah, the person that needs to hear it.
It may only be one person, but that one person needed it. It doesn't mean it's going to be thousands of people. But if that one person, if it changed their life, then that's good.
Definitely. So listeners, don't forget to hop over to artforbodyminandsoul.com, where Barbara's hanging out, and you can find all the information about her that you want. Just explore this amazing human being that I had on the show today, and all the things that she's offering. Her new book is going to be coming out. She's co-authored one of the ultimate guide for self-healing books. So hop over there. And also just thanks for joining us today to listen into a conversation that I believe includes words that are changing the world. Thank you for being part of this Brave Healer revolution. If you happen to be a holistic practitioner with a message to share, please head down into those show notes. Find the submissions information about our next Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing co-authored book project. And of course, I'm here if you have any questions about that. But lastly, everyone, remember, your words will change the world when you're brave enough to share them. See you soon, everybody. Have a good one, Barbara.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Laura.